to the bold analysis. Some Kiswahili people who like Swahili say, mambo imechemka. On this one, I want us to revisit the 15 billion procured scandal. And you're going to get very interesting revelations why William Ruto has been cornered by the minority MPs. It's a very interesting development here. Now, let me tell you, Article 223 of the Constitution is what anchors the premise of a supplementary budget. What is a supplementary budget? A supplementary budget is where MDS is in full is ministries, development, and the departments and agencies are allowed to use a budget to appropriate a budget less than 10% of their annual budgets, then go to parliament later within 2 months for approval. This is what it means. For example, you have a budget. Let me put it simplistic so that someone will understand. Let me not put it to billions. For example, a ministry, and this is an example, so it's not realistic, needs like 200, maybe 200. Let me say 100 million. So under the provisions of Article 223, 10% of the 100 is 10 million. So you are allowed to use anything less than 10 million outside the budget stipulations, outside what was budgeted for. Go to the exchequer, withdraw that money with the approval of the controller of budget, but then we'll come and tell parliament later. That is what that constitution says. Let me take you to the 15 billion haste. So that money was withdrawn by the approval of the relevant bodies. So when President William Ruto crafted the supplementary budget estimates that were approved on 7th March, that budget, that 15 billion was included there. So it is upon which that was done. Remember, it had not been done earlier because Parliament, of course, was on recess during the electioneering period. So, this is what is happening. The truth of the matter here is, even previous administrations have often abused that article, and MPs normally look back or straightforward to say that sometimes they are bribed to pass that supplementary budget, even knowing very well that it has breached the law. This is what normally happens. So a ministry or a department or agency would estimate more than the 10%, lakini maneuver, sneak that bill to parliament, appropriation to parliament, and it goes through. So MPs have been abetting breach of the law. Now this is how Uda has been caught in a very tight corner. The 15 billion budget they were rejecting and shouting that has been looted, themselves they approved it. Wao wenyewe ile supplementary budget ile yenye Ruto alisign on 7th ina include that 15. It's included in it. So Opiyo Wandayi, minority leader, is asking, now you are telling us to reject it, but you guys yourselves have approved it. Now what do we do? In fact, that's what Opiyo Wandayi has asked. What do you want the minority to do? It's a very interesting one. Now, nyinyi wenyewe unasema pesa imeibwa, lakini wenyewe ndio umeapprove. And in fact, the money has already been withdrawn. So, what is the point of rejecting? Clearly, this was just a political tune. It was just trying to increase the volume on a political tune. Everyone is now quiet. Despite of us, Rigathi Gachagua, giving us a notice that in the next 2 or 3 days he's going to give us names, no name is coming out. You know the problem? Investigators are scratching their heads on who do you surcharge on this 15 on this supplementary budget, because where do you even start? Following the money trail, it started over from the cabinet. And it takes so are you going to arrest the whole of Uhuru cabinet, people who might have approved it? Are you going to charge Uhuru himself and then start? How many people are you going to charge? Where are you going to follow it? As I talk to you, despite of us being given, told to be given names, everyone has gone silent. MPs move to probe the receivers of the money that was withdrawn is an exercise in futility. I can tell you for sure. You know why? The departmental committee have limitations as to what extent they can go, and it is the most porous group to be infiltrated if they go further. Kama wamekuwa kipitisha if they've been passing a supplementary budget before in full glare of camera, knowing very well that there is a breach of the law, what tells you that now they will move with it? MPs will be the most gullible team to be bribed. Now, it should be used, the Article 23 should be used in strict interpretation of the Constitution and the PFM Act. PFM is Public Finance Management Act, and relationship with the PFM Act, Public Finance Management National Government Regulations Act of 2015. That should be it. But this is what Azimio is telling Kenya Kwanza. Instead of spiraling around this problem, let's just do away with Article 2 to 3. That let us not allow the executive to use Kenyans' money before approval of the parliament. I know framers, people who sneaked that article, sneaked it, number one, looking at in case of an emergency. You don't need to rush to parliament because sometimes parliament is in recess and government agenda has to go on. The plans of the government have to go on in case of an emergency. But balancing, putting a cushion emergency and the kind of pilferage that we have witnessed, the Azimio team are telling UDA that if you honestly believe we want to solve this problem moving in future, let's just do away with 2 to 3. And heads are up. Watu wamekataa, hiyo hatukubali. People have turned their back on it and no one wants, and in fact, Kenya Kwanza have rejected that blatantly. I support. If we want to solve the problem, let's not spiral about it. The MPs know the loophole that is being used. And everyone, even investigators, EACC, Controller of Budget, I think Auditor General, Nancy Gadungu, recently, while giving some audit report, said that it is about time we review that article. If Kenya Kwanza means well, then let's just go and scrap it. Because sasa siyo ndio Uhuru alitumia. Yes. And it has been used in the past by the previous regimes. Let us not allow the executive to use Kenyans' money before approval of parliament. And I don't know why it is making it difficult, because at the end of the day, parliament and the executive, the majority and the executive, majority and the executive are together. So they can still appropriate a huge budget and bring it to parliament and use their numbers there and pass it. But someone is just hell-bent that I must spend money, then go and appropriate later. Because, you know, this is the truth. If you allow the executive to spend the money, or other MDAs to spend that money, then come to parliament to approval, what does it mean? When money is out, money will come into circulation, masquerading as going to some project, and maybe you realize that even road construction of that project, someone who is getting that tender is from parliament, is majority leader or someone from the departmental committee that is supposed to investigate that money, and that money gets back in the hands of MPs, then MPs are tied. They cannot question why the appropriation is more. So let's be honest on this. But I am not shocked that UDA has refused. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our video. I am not surprised, and I normally like some viewers normally like telling me, Kevin, I am surprised that you are surprised. No, I am not surprised because there is no doubt that fight against graft or misuse or theft of public money is not in the plan. It is not in the plan. What is in the plan are some two interventions on fight against corruption. And I honestly believe it is just a paperwork. Two interventions. Number one is we will give judiciary 2 billion for them to be independent so that they don't beg executive for their budgets. And that will stop them from doing things under the expediency of the executive. Number two, we are also going to give financial autonomy to the NPS, National Police Service. Quite in order. Tell me how those two interventions has worked. As we speak, the 2 billion that was to be given to judiciary has not been given. And we know that Martha Koome was in Meru crying that ile pesa mliniambia mnipe. I am not sure about that of the police, but that I think was effected immediately. So maybe even if it's given some installments. Now, those two interventions, according to me, are not interventions to help us fight graft. In fact, if you ask me, then the body that you need to give a lot of independence is DPP and EACC. But what do you expect? What do you expect? I don't think the executive hands are normally off investigating institutions. So, the fight against graft is not on the table. If this was on the table, by yesterday, we should have removed that Article 223. Secondly, it is the stealing window, and it is the window that is used to remove money from the granary and past go out. So, you must agree, in Kenya, we have some very small, we have some very small provisions, dogo too, but they're the ones that are killing us. But we can't seal those loopholes because of a very important question: what is in it for me? Leaders got to get power, not necessarily for you, but the first question is, what is in it for me? How am I going to benefit? If I cannot benefit, or my brother's company cannot get the deal, or my sister's company or my son's company cannot get the contract, then it is not a priority. We're in an economy of capitalists, everyone for himself. So, how do you expect people even to accept that Article 224 to be scrapped if there is already reports of some spending spree? People have outlived their budgets. Yes. What was set for them, they have exhausted it. So if this provision is not here, and people are going to use the money that is set aside for them, and they exhaust it in the next 3 or 4 months, are you going to expect them to go dry? I'm telling you. Rakango's 15 billion, to me, is a hot air. Wild goose chase. Let's meet in the next analysis.